Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ja, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so honored and delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in this mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Audible, CastBox, Player FM, Boomplay, Ghana, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have a wonderful show with three amazing guests who make you think, make you smile. Jackie Cano will be up first, celebrating Sabella Can Sew. Emily Jenkins will follow, celebrating all the best dogs. And later in the show, we meet 13-year-old Abigail Samson. She's here to celebrate her debut book, The Magical World of Candy Topia, and share some incredible wisdom for parents. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by 28 Days of Neon by Mayra Rosenberg. 12-year-old Neon Blue Green is queen of the cafeteria, co-captain of the cheerleading squad, and has the most amazing dog any 7th grader could ask for. Her only complaint in life is that her parents named her after the color of a sports energy drink. Until the morning, she overhears them whispering and learns that she has only 28 days left to live. Neon needs a miracle, but how can she get one in only 28 days? Then it hits her. She'll do one good deed every day. This is a fascinating middle grade novel that you and your kids are going to love to read or co-read together. Get your copy today, 28 Days of Neon by Mayra Rosenberg. This episode is brought to you by Feliz Navidad. It's December of 2019, and Pittsburgh is covered in a terrible fog. Even worse, all of the reindeer get sick and they can't fly. Everyone in the North Pole is worried they'll have to cancel Christmas. But just when all hope seems lost, Santa's pet, Feliz Navidad, raises his paw to help. And while a dog is not quite a reindeer, Feliz is their last chance to save Christmas. This is a book about perseverance and grit. Feliz Navidad, the story of how Santa's dog saved Christmas. Get your copy today, Feliz Navidad, by Ari and Rhea Helper. This episode is brought to you by OnceUponADance.com. Ignite imagination with award-winning dance and movement books. Once Upon a Dance inspires young readers to twirl, leap, and dream with whimsy and wonder. Whether your child enjoys unicorns, bats, zombies, or cats, Once Upon a Dance has a dance-it-out story to get them moving. For more information about this 37 delightful books, please visit OnceUponADance.com or find them on your favorite social media platform. Join us right now from beautiful Southern California. Our guest is here today to celebrate. Her latest book is called Sabella Can Sew. Please welcome to the show, Jackie Cano. Hey, Jackie, how are you?
Hey, Jed, and hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, you could add a subtitle to Sabella Can Sew, and you could call the book Sabella Can Sew and Jed Lee Can't.
No, the whole point is yes, you can. I promise you.
So that's one of the driving things that you want to get across to kids with this idea is to try new things. Is that right?
Absolutely. So, my daughter's name is Sabella. So the title is based on her. It had meaning behind it because I wanted to teach her how to sew. It wasn't an easy skill, definitely something that took time, but ultimately the goal is to teach kids that they can do things and overcome those obstacles, even when things don't go right and things like that. So it was more of a personal aspect. And character is actually based off of my daughter, Sabella.
Sabella is a very unique name. I haven't heard anybody. I've met lots of Isabels and Isabellas, but I haven't met a Sabella.
Yeah. So funny story. Like we definitely, when we were pregnant with her, she's my second daughter out of three children. And after being pregnant with her, we loved the name Isabella. And my husband had a niece and I'm sorry, had an aunt named Isabella. And I had two nieces named Sabella. So we were like, man, I mean, sorry, Isabella. And so we were like, how are we going to keep that name? We love it, but also make it a little different. So then we dropped the I and we're like, Sabella. There it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I've been doing educational magic shows for 35 years, and I have this joke. It always bombs. I love it, but when I bring a kid up on stage and she tells me that her name is Isabella, I always turn to her and say, "You is an Isabella? I thought you was a girl, but I guess you was an Isabella." And now you know why nobody laughs at that.
It's for the right audience, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. So what a neat thing to inspire kids to try new things, to have the courage to go outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So, a little bit more about this. I actually learned to sew myself, like right when I was pregnant with my son, which is right before COVID. And basically, well, to go a little bit further than that, actually, I got married and I told my husband a few years in, I want to learn how to sew. And he bought me this really nice sewing machine and it sat in our closet for like ever. I'm talking years. And then I was coming around finding out I was pregnant with my son and I just really wanted to start something new. And so I had slowly started to learn how to sew, but I really just didn't have that mindset. Like, I can't sew. I'm not very good at it. Like, I kind of limited myself. Mm-hmm. And then I have a really good friend of mine named Lourdes who basically took me under her wing and showed me how to even work my sewing machine and how to sew some basic things. So she even taught me how to sew my son's very first quilt made out of my husband's camis. So it was amazing. So there is a huge shout out to her because she kind of sparked that love for me and really gave me the confidence that I needed. And then from there, as I started to learn how to sew, obviously my two daughters, Juliana and Sabella, were interested. And so they started asking me, Mom, like, can I sew this? Can I sew that? And sure, we took steps to learn how to sew. And now they make clothes, they make dresses, they make purses, whatever it is, they'll sew by hand now, they just love it. So.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I love this idea that you have in one of your notes is that helping kids understand that failing, making mistakes, it's part of the learning curve.
Absolutely. I think it's a super important message and belief that a child needs to have early on is that there's no failure in trying. Absolutely not. There is only failure if you give up or failure if you just even put off starting. I think if I had started sooner, I really wish I would have had this belief in myself even earlier. So ultimately, I think that having that belief, it not only is good for sewing, obviously for anything. I just believe that kids, you don't have to get the perfect A+. You don't have to get that perfect theme on sewing. Ultimately, it's about learning the process and really loving what you made, even if it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of my nieces, if she had heard my dumb joke about Jedley can't sew earlier, she would have corrected me because I never allowed her to say the word can't without following it with yet.
Yep. Amen. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I love that. It's very easy, I think, to fall off into that place of like, I'm not good enough. I should just give up. But I think, like I tell my children all the time, if something is also hard in the beginning, it doesn't mean it won't get easier and you won't get better at it. Ultimately, it is challenging in the beginning because you haven't learned all the skills. And even to this day, I'm still learning something new techniques and following other people on their sewing journey and seeing how much I can learn from them. So it's really just about sharing and learning and continuing to try new things.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, it was eye-opening for me. I was a big baseball fan when I was a kid, and I heard one of the players say, who was a great hitter, could have been Ted Williams, in fact, who said, everybody thinks it's great, I'm batting 400, but that means that I fail 60% of the time. And I thought, wow. And, that was his message too. Don't give up. You're going to make mistakes and don't worry about it. You just have to get back up and try again.
I love that you said that because growing up, my brother played baseball and he definitely, we talked batting averages a lot. So I love that you said that because I never really took that into mind that even the percentage of like success versus, what you might deem as failure is just all like, it's all normal. Like it's okay to not get A's all the time. It's okay to have some classes, some skills be harder to learn.
Right.
So yeah, I love that analogy. Thanks for sharing that. I might use that.
Well, please feel free. It's not mine, but feel free. I stole it from someone. You can steal it from me.
Great.
Tell me, what do you love most about being a children's author?
So I started my journey of wanting to write, I would say about 2.5 years ago. And the thing I love most is my kids have really encouraged me to use my imagination. So I used to tell them stories made up in my head. They loved me reading books, but they loved even more when I told them stories from the heart. Told them stories that I made up characters and I made it always have a lesson underneath it all. So I love that my kids have pride in my stories and they love it. I love that they're proud of me now. I love that I could share this message that I wish I would have come in contact with learning this sooner myself. Like even if it was specifically sewing, like that's the thing is like not limiting yourself. Cause to me, we think big picture. So what I love is that I can narrow a topic down. And if a kid believes this, like they can sew too, then they could believe, they can garden. They believe they can write. They believe that they can succeed. And so that ultimately is like my why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. You told me that Sabella Can Sew is going to be the first in a series of books. Can you give us a sneak peek at what's to come?
Yeah. So I have Gabby Can Garden and Penny Can Paint. And then I also have Beth Can Bake. Those are the ones in this series. And they're all inspired by my children, though, and also my nieces. So my nieces live in Missouri. They have learned to garden. And to one person who thought they were a green thumb, they taught me and they taught my daughters on how to sew, how to garden and how to do these things. And then also painting. Like I have become sparked a love myself for painting. And so I teach classes with my nieces, with my cousins, just anyone who's willing to paint, just having that artistic outlet. So, some of the other books are listed on the back of one book to kind of encourage them to look out for the next ones.
Great, great. I was just at a wake, this afternoon and wakes, here in Boston and around a lot of the country, that's where you see the people that you grew up with. You don't see them any other time except when someone passes away. And a guy we lived in a three-decker, three-family home on top of each other, and he lived in the third floor. Me and my family lived in the first floor, and he was saying how proud he was of my brother, that my brother from a very early young age, growing up in the inner city, always said that he wanted a farm. And that was the weirdest thing for a kid growing up in the inner city to say, but he actually made it happen. And so great that you're sharing this message with kids so that they know, that they can do it.
Yeah, Jed, and my heart goes out to you. I'm sorry for the loss that you guys have experienced. But yeah, there's a lot there when you try to unpack the beauty of goals. Young kids have goals, and those who can grow up and still achieve something down that path is pretty amazing as well.
Yeah. And just to be clear, just in case he's listening or someone that knows him, my brother didn't pass away. It was somebody else, but they were
No. Okay, good. I didn't get that. Your brother passed, but I got you were out of way. Oh boy. My mom is currently battling breast cancer, stage 4, and literally right before I came on here, we were on a call with her oncologist. So, I believe that there is just, there's a lot of things going on for people in the world, a lot of challenges. So I appreciate being on here. And I know others who are hearing this might be experiencing some form of loss as well and challenges. So I get it. Life is tough at times.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I will keep you and your mom in our prayers.
Yes. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Do you have another series that came out before Sabella? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is the one I actually started with, Whiny Whiny Whale and Donnie the Dancing Donkey and Bossy Panda Bear Learns to Share. These books are all fun. I obviously did like humanized characters with emotions. I did these books in rhyme, so they're a bit different, but so fun. Whiny Whiny Whale deals with a book of emotions, kind of like how you have a wave of emotions. It really talks about specific like feelings of even kids who may not want to play, may not want to enjoy themselves, and they kind of feel something inside and they don't quite understand why. And then Donnie the Dancing Donkey is a little bit about overcoming bullies and stage fright.
Mm.
And then obviously this one is Bossy Panda Bear is, he goes to school and he doesn't want to share, which I definitely have a son who's 4 and he struggles with that. And so we incorporate books like this to really help that.
Yeah. It's interesting. We just had a conversation with a kindergarten teacher, and one of the things that is frustrating for her is that kindergarten has become first grade. And
it's so advanced. Yes.
Opportunities for kids to just have free play and to learn how to share, to learn how to get along. It's just not happening in kindergarten. So I'm really happy that you have that book, because I think as parents, I mean, we're teaching our kids those things anyways, but it sounds like young parents are going to have to do more of that.
Yeah, they're having to learn a lot of things, I think, earlier, not only skills, but like you said, they're not given as much freedom and playtime. And that's really tough, right? Because parents work, they need to put their kids in school, but ultimately, like, there is a gap where they need to learn a little bit quicker and they need more reinforcement. So books are really a great way that kids can really express themselves and learn how to have words for what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. I think oftentimes they're like, man, that made me feel uncomfortable, but they don't maybe understand where the root of that is coming from. Did someone make you feel uncomfortable? Is it something, emotions within yourself? So those are definitely good things to identify, especially in today's education system.
Mm-hmm. So you were sharing with me earlier that you loved, and your kids love you, just telling stories and using your imagination. And my kids would love to have me tell them stories. But there was this one night we had so much fun and we were laughing and the kids were just giggling. And the next night they said, tell us that story again. I said, what story are you talking about? And they go, the one you told us last night. I'm like, I don't remember. Give me, what's about what? And they go, I don't know either. We're laughing so hard. I forgot. We never remember what the story was, but that would have been a classic, would have been a New York Times bestseller. But you were enjoying telling those stories for your kids. But it's one thing to tell stories for your kids. It's another thing to take the leap and to become an author. So where did you get the chutzpah, the courage to do that?
The spark. Yeah, I definitely feel like, I was telling somebody this story recently too. Is like, I actually loved writing in middle school. I loved like poetry. I loved writing a lot. I wrote in a journal very faithfully, but somewhere around college, I kind of drifted away from loving it. It actually became harder. So I was like, oh, it's not so fun anymore. Like I have to dot my I's and cross my T's and I have to get a grade for something that I had passion to write about. And so it wasn't fun anymore for me. So I kind of stepped back. And then, when I decided to start writing, obviously I had the encouragement of my kids and my husband. I actually was living overseas in the Middle East. And while I was there, I basically, joined to keep busy. I joined 3 spouse book clubs. We were a military family. So I joined 3 spouse book clubs and I just sparked the love of reading again with me. And I was like, wow, and then obviously on the side, my kids loved my stories. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can't write a novel and do that right now. But I definitely have a passion for writing shorter stories. And so, yeah, I just decided to keep writing. And my first story was Whiny Whiny Whale. And my kids loved it, like off the bat. And that encouragement I got about 3 years ago to keep like working it. And then, started publishing.
That's wonderful. I don't want to forget to thank you and your family for your service to our country, because in addition to the people who are in the military's families make tremendous sacrifices. for our country. So thank you very much for that.
I sincerely appreciate that. And honestly, my husband, he's the one that deserves a lot of the accolade. He's currently still on deployment. I know he's going through a lot. And so it's been amazing to be able to be here to support my mom, but he's still supporting our country.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us, because I've had the opportunity to perform at a couple of base schools, and I was so impressed with the kids that really was it. It's the public school that people talk about. You know what public schools could be. It was diverse. It was a rainbow of kids. And the most respectful group of kids that I have met. And not just they were well behaved because they had a teacher looking over them ready to punish them. No, they were just, and everything was very polite, very, very respectful. And they were respectful of each other. So, I want to give a shout out to all the military educators and those base families. Can you talk just a little bit so people know the kind of sacrifices I think we kind of can imagine what kind of sacrifices military members make, but what are the kind of sacrifices that you and your kids have to make as military family?
Okay. So, obviously I can only speak, sorry about that. I could only speak to what I've seen and what I've experienced. I've been married 11 years. My husband's been in the military over 24 years. So there's definitely, he has a whole slew of experience himself, but coming into this, I definitely feel like it's a community. We all come together, but the types of sacrifices are the kids. A lot of times, they're not with their parents or the one that's in the service, because they're gone on deployment. They're working early. They're working late. They have to gear up for an upcoming event. Sometimes it's exhausting because what they're trained to do is to protect us. And ultimately we know the sacrifice, but a lot of times it's late nights, it's time away. It's those hard times at moments, but really the kids have pride in their family. So I think for us, I know right now what we're dealing with is, I've had to travel back and forth from Bahrain to California. I would say in the past couple of years, it's been 6 times. Wow. And it's been by myself with 3 kids, majority of the time. And so, yeah, the sacrifice is hey kids, we have this thing called Semper Gumby. It's be flexible. My husband's a Marine, so definitely be flexible. And, we have plans and ideas that we want, but the military may have a different plan and they may have a different direction for us. And so, having trust in God is ultimately where I think me and my family base our belief in. And ultimately we have to be flexible. So having to learn that is not easy all the time, especially for kids now that they're getting older and they want to stay at the same school, have the same friends. Yeah.
Yeah. What can we do to better support military families?
Just love on them, continue to, if you know a military family, I would just say, be a support system. Sometimes they do need to talk for these kids, doing those, author events, go to those Dodea schools, make friends with that spouse who is, possibly living with their husbands or wife deployed, or their significant other deployed, and they're trying to manage everything themselves. Sometimes it will take, we'll cook a meal for a family that maybe they just had a baby, just continuing to have that empathy and that consideration for just human beings. Cause ultimately that's what we are. We want connection. We don't want to feel left out, but sometimes, it is different. It's a different world that not everyone understands, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Sabella Can Sew and find out more about you.
Yeah. So, you can also search my name, Jackie Cano, on most social media. It's definitely on Instagram and Facebook. And then if you go to my website, it's, www.jackieyc.com/author page. And I'm there. But yeah, I'm definitely, typing my name onto any platform and pretty much will come up.
We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of Sabella Can Sew. It is the first book in a new series from our guest, Jackie Cano. Jackie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by the books by Charmaine Perry Knight. Charmaine is a TEDx speaker, award-winning facilitator, world traveler, and author. Serving military families through quality literature is her goal and her passion. Her books are absolutely amazing. They are just full of great messages. Books like I'll Find My Way, and that's okay. I Move a Lot, and that's okay. And It's Cool to Be Kind. Such great books that you and your kids will absolutely adore. These books deserve to be in your family library. Get them today. The books by Charmaine Perry Knight. They're available today at Amazon. This episode is brought to you by the Logan series. 3 wonderful books written by Christine Ritchie McNamee. Logan and the Missing Masterpiece, Logan and the Lost Luggage, Logan and the Missing Jewels. Logan and the Lost Luggage is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read, and all 3 of these books feature Logan, an adorable Cocker Spaniel who travels the world with his magic phone. You and your kids are going to love traveling around the world with Logan, meeting animals from all over the world, visiting different countries, and learning how to get along with people from other countries and other cultures. It's a beautiful series of books. Our Reading with Your Kids certified great read panel loved Logan and the Last Luggage. We know you're going to love all 3 books. Check it out today. The Logan series by Christine Ritchie McNamee. Join us right now from Brooklyn and New York City, New York. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new children's book. It's called All the Best Dogs. Please welcome to the show, Emily Jenkins. Hey, Emily, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you on. I love dogs. Dogs have been such a huge part of my life. And so I can't wait to find out what this book is all about.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Tell us the story. Who are we going to meet?
Well, so All the Best Dogs is the story of 4 6th graders who live in Brooklyn, and they intersect with their dogs on one hot June weekend at the local dog run. And, a dog run, if you are not from a big city, is a place that's basically like a playground for dogs where you can let your dog off the leash and they can run around and meet other dogs and play. So the story has the point of view of each of these 4 very different 6th graders, but it also has dog POV.
Cool. Very, very cool. What kind of mischief do the dogs get the kids in?
Well, I mean, it's a very funny story. It has really, really cute illustrations by the Italian artist Manuel Pretano. And, the dogs puke and they get lost and they make friends with each other and they have temper tantrums. And there's a puppy that fits in a teacup and there's an imposter dog and there's also a hamster. And basically over the course of the intersecting stories of these people and dogs and their lives, wounds get healed and friendships get formed and broken friendships get healed and a lost dog gets found. And, sort of everyone, it's a very happy book. This is not a book where any dogs are going to die. This is a book to make kids, kind of laugh and connect and think about themselves in the world and basically, feel some joy.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing you just said, getting kids to think about where they fit in the world. I think that's a real important thing for kids to kind of think about.
For sure. I set the book in Brooklyn, which is where I live, but I really love to write about Brooklyn. I've written a number of middle grade stories that take place in a Brooklyn neighborhood. Harry versus the First 100 Days of School, the Invisible Inkling series, and a lot of my picture books also take place in Brooklyn. And one of the reasons is you get a lot of people from different kinds of backgrounds living in the same buildings, going to the same schools, walking their dogs in the same dog runs. And the sixth graders in this book are facing some tough things. Jilly has just moved in with an aunt after a family crisis. And another kid is suffering some serious anxiety and a friendship breakup. He's also got a parent out of work. Another kid feels really misunderstood by her family of origin. And another kid has done something that he feels really guilty about that he's hiding. And so each of those kids starts the story feeling really alone, you know, and the dogs help them find the joy that's available to all of us every day in small things, even if times are tough. And in the end, the dogs bring the people together.
Cool. You mentioned you write a lot about Brooklyn. It is kind of a very unique place in the world.
I mean, I think so. Lots of big cities have this kind of range of people of different kinds of backgrounds and religions and socioeconomic situations. But it has been a really wonderful part of my adult life, and also I think of my children's school life, right? They went to school with people different than them and made good friends, and it was such a big part of their education as public school students. And I gained so much from it as well, and I wanted to put some of that into the book.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I see on social media are the comparisons between West Coast and East Coast, particularly folks who live in New York City, Brooklyn, Boston, Philadelphia. And what they say is, well, people on the West Coast, they're really friendly, but they're not really helpful. Then, you know, it's like, hey, how are you? Nice to see you. You need some help? I got to go. Whereas on the East Coast, in Brooklyn, New York City, might be a little rough. We might, we see you break down the side of the road. We might say, what were you thinking about? You didn't do this. What's wrong with you? But meanwhile, they'll go and they'll help you out and they'll make sure that you get on your way safely.
That's interesting. One thing that is definitely true about New Yorkers is we love to give directions because it comes from pride of place, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a New Yorker and someone stops you in the street and is like, how do I get somewhere, you know, a tourist or just, you know, somebody who's not used to your particular neighborhood, a New Yorker will almost always stop and say, oh, let me explain. This way's north, this way's south, right? You want to go down this way. You want to make a right on 11th Street. Then you're going to go over 2 blocks. Then you're going to see the such and such. Then you're going to turn there, you know, because in helping the tourist, you're also getting to kind of celebrate your mastery of this enormous monster of a city.
Yeah. And it really is big live in Boston. We have a lot of rivalries, sports rivalries with New York City. But, you know, in terms of big city, Boston kind of pales in comparison with New York.
I'm not going to go there.
Well, I just mean in the immensity of it. You know, I think Boston has a population of maybe 600,000 in the city, whereas New York is a couple of million. And there's a whole lot of people squeezed into a very small space in New York City.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think when you're talking about creating books for young readers, you know, most people listening to this podcast will know, you know, the metaphor of you know, windows onto other lives that books can offer, as well as reflections of a child's own experience. And there are so many kids who don't live in big cities. And, you know, one of the small offerings that's in All the Best Dogs is a window onto that city life for the kids who don't have it, right? To see what it's like to live in an apartment building and to not have a backyard where your dog can run, but instead to take your dog, to let it off leash, you know, in a community space, and how that might change your everyday life.
Yeah, yeah. What was the inspiration for All the Best Dogs?
Well, I have a friend named Heather Weston who is a photographer, and she photographed New York City dogs in all 5 boroughs for a photography book called Canines of New York. And when she was doing that, she needed like an extra person to help get the paperwork signed so she could use photographs of the dogs and to talk to the dog owners, and get like, what is the name of your dog? And, do we have permission to use your dog, and tell us a little story about your dog, while she was actually photographing the dog. So I helped her out a lot during the process of making this book. And that meant going into a ton of New York City dog runs and meeting a ton of dogs and hearing the stories that the dog owners would tell about their dogs. And so that is how I got the idea that there might be a middle grade novel, that could be centered on a dog run.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a dog that gets you to dog runs?
No, I don't have a dog. I'm a cat person, really. I mean, I think that I'm the dog in the story. I love dogs. I really do. I just live with cats. That's who I'm harmoniously in touch with for home life. But I feel like the dogs in my book, are very doggy, but they're also experiencing the feelings and problems that my readers might be experiencing, right? A stolen toy, getting in trouble for eating something that you're not supposed to, looking for a friend, feeling sick, wanting comfort, wanting an adventure. The dogs are expressing all these very typical childhood emotions, kind of in a big form.
Yeah. What is it about writing for middle graders that you love so much?
Oh, I just love writing for this age category. I think because I was such an impassioned middle grade reader. I was voted best reader in my 5th grade class.
Congratulations.
And that was a very big moment. I did not know there was a competition. I had just, read my books and logged them and written my book reports. And then suddenly I had a prize for it. I was absolutely shocked, and I had never won anything before. And I think in my heart, I'm often writing for that 10-year-old that I was, right, who took 30 minutes to walk 2 blocks home from school because I stopped in the middle of the block to read my book. And so, that kid still lives inside me, and very often I am writing for her.
Yeah. If you had a message, if there was a 10-year-old out there who is stopping on the way home from school to read your books, what would you want to say to that 10-year-old?
Well, I'm going to be cheeky in that, I don't really believe that novels exist to give a message to youth. You can write a message in a sentence, and if you could say it in a sentence, you wouldn't write a novel to express it. You write a novel to do something much more complex, much deeper, much more fun than a message. You are expressing something that cannot be expressed in a different form. If you could write it simply, you wouldn't write a novel. The novel is messy. The novel might have contradictions inside of it. The novel might not have everything wrap up perfectly, or it might just be there to create a sense of order and harmony in the world. But a book is going to mean different things to different readers at different times of their lives. I think this is a very hopeful book. I think it's a very cheerful book. I think it's also nuanced about, how people struggle with their friendships and their relationships, and what part of your character comes out when there's a crisis. But I'm not trying to sell any particular message. I'm trying to write a work of literature.
Yeah, cool. One of the things we encourage here on Reading with Your Kids is to continue to read with your kids as they get older, or co-read with your kids and have conversations about their middle grade novels or YA titles. What kind of conversations do you think a family could have if they're reading All the Best Dogs and going to dance class or school, or coming back from soccer practice?
Well, I think that there's, a lot of serious problems in this kind of joyful book. There are foster dogs. There are super lonely dogs. There are dogs who are sick. There are dogs who quarrel. Is a dog who's lost a leg. There is a dog who's lost his family. And there are kids who are experiencing these things too. So I think it offers a chance for you to talk about, serious issues, maybe like foster families, and also lighthearted issues like, what happens when you eat way too much chocolate. In this case, this dog has a really enormous barf. But I also think there's something so valuable in laughing together and having shared little phrases and little jokes. I remember reading Junie B. Jones Has a Peep in Her Pocket by Barbara Park with my kids. And in that particular Junie B. book, Junie B. is scared to go to a farm because her school is going on a field trip to a farm, and Junie B. has had a babysitter who let her watch a television show called When Ponies Attack. And so Junie B. is convinced that the ponies on the farm are vicious and will attack her. And this has just been one of the things that has made my family, we're still laughing about this, a full 10 years after we first read Junie B. Jones Has a Peep in Her Pocket. We'll just say, that pony, watch out, it might attack. And, having the reason to read with your kid instead of just let your kid read books on their own, even after they are fully capable of doing that. And the reason to maybe listen to audiobooks in the car with your kid as well is that you develop a set of shared jokes and shared, things that just crack you up or just references. And those, will populate your family life until your kids go to college. And that is a great blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the memories that me and my kids share, around reading together is, it wasn't a book, but my beautiful wife came home, with a prescription. And for some reason, I decided to pick up and read all the possible side effects in a very dramatic way. And the kids just loved it. They were rolling on the floor, probably because my wife was freaking out and saying, I can't take this medicine.
Right. Well, you found joy even in a stressful reading situation.
Absolutely. Tell me what's next for you?
Oh, well, I don't have another middle grade coming out right this minute. But I have some picture books that I've been working on. I recently published a book called A Big Day for Bike, which has illustrations by G. Brian Karras. So that's kind of hot on the shelves right now. And it's about a bicycle share bike, and it's her first day being a bike share bike. And she's very nervous. So it's really, secretly it's a first day of school book, but it's also a things that go book, right? For any kids who like, cars, trucks, tractors, bicycles, tricycles. So I'm really proud of that. And Brian Karras and I had done a book called Lemonade in Winter a couple years ago, which is actually my best-selling picture book. And so it was really a treat to get to do another story with him.
Yeah, I love when I'm talking to authors and they have such a feeling of teamwork with their illustrators.
Yeah, sometimes you don't, get to hang out with your illustrator. I had a fantasy when I started making illustrated books that, I would be going over to the art studio and palling around. And that has happened, but pretty rarely. Manuel Pretano, who did the art in All the Best Dogs, this is my second book with him. And he lives in Italy. So we have never met.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If there's a kid out there listening, because we do have some kids who listen to the show and they're aspiring to be an author when they grow up, what advice might you give them?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's a learned skill. I don't really believe in talent. And I think that when people talk about the arts a lot of times with children and with each other as adults, they're like, oh, this person is so talented. And I think that is a very exclusive way to think about the arts. And mostly it just turns people off. And I would say that I have never had any particular talent for writing, and I have published over 55 books. What I have are skills that I learned, and I learned them by practicing, and I learned them by imitating things that I admired, and I learned them by reading books about how to write stories, and by practicing some more. So I had a willingness to try hard in an area that I was excited about. So if you want to draw pictures and right now you kind of stink at it, that does not mean you cannot be a great illustrator or artist. And if you want to tell stories and right now you feel like your stories are kind of, not as exciting or not as beautiful as you want them to be, that is a skill that you can learn also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that advice because you're right. There are a lot of times when people think, oh, that singer, that writer, that artist, they were just born with that talent, and right from the start, right from birth, that they were destined to be an artist, and it really takes a lot of work.
It's not just that it takes a lot of work; it's that you can learn it if you would like to.
Yeah. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about All the Best Dogs and find out more about all of the books that you've created.
I am at emilyjenkins.com. And there are teacher activities and student activities and all kinds of questions and answers on my website if you're curious about what I do.
Awesome. And parents, remember, you are your kid's first and most important teacher. So those teacher resources that are on Emily's website, you can check them out too. We've had a great time speaking to the author of All the Best Dogs. It's a new middle grade novel from our guest, Emily Jenkins. Emily, thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, it was a joy.
This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Snoodles in Space, Episode 2, The Zoodles Strike Back, written by Stephen Joseph and illustrated by Andy Case. In this third installment of the Snoodles series, the Zoodles are determined to have their revenge. With the help of a grimy millionaire who's fallen on hard times, they intend to poison the Earth's water supply and turn everyone into willy-nillys and dilly-dallies. Can Brianna and Ricky save the Earth again? Will the outcast kids on the other side of the track rise to the challenge and help save the world? You can find out with Snoodles in Space, Episode 2, The Zoodles Strike Back. Are you looking for the perfect gift for a young reader? Woofy and the Dinosaur Dig Adventure, the second book in the Woofy series, is an exciting choice that fosters creativity, friendship, and teamwork. Join Woofy, a small gray stuffed dog, on his thrilling quest to help his friends excavate a T-Rex in the mountains. Young readers will enjoy his humorous adventures and admire his skills as a pup paleontologist, all set in a beautifully illustrated lyrical story. Authored by Helen Rogenson, retired award-winning teacher honored with the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. This book encourages lifelong learning while supporting charities for animal rescues and children in need. Don't miss out. Visit us at unpackyourownhappy.com and connect with us on Instagram at unpackyourownhappy. Join us right now from the great state of Florida. Our guest is here today to celebrate her debut children's book. It's called The Magical World of Topia. Please welcome to the show, Abigail Samson. Hey, Abigail, how are you?
I'm doing good today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. Tell us all about The Magical World of Topia, please.
Okay, The Magical World of Topia is about a planet called Topia. The planet is a place where everything is made mostly of candy, and in the planet lives a girl named Kate. She's the princess of a country called Sardinia, and there she lives, and she goes on a journey to save Topia.
Awesome. Who is threatening Topia?
Topia is being threatened by an unknown person.
And are they threatening to come and eat all the candy or make it yucky?
No. So the person, Topia, is a place where they have 7 gems and 7 moons.
Uh-huh.
And the gems have been stolen by this unknown person, and this is a problem to Candytopia. And so Kate has to go and find them.
What inspired you to write this book?
I was inspired by my siblings.
Really? Tell me how.
So me and my siblings, we would usually come up with stories together. And from there, Candytopia came up.
Now, was this an idea that sprang up last Halloween as you were like just covered in candy from trick-or-treating?
No, it sprang up just one day
Uh-huh.
out of nowhere.
Awesome. Well, we should probably mention, because it's very unusual, you are a young woman of only how old?
13.
13. So that would put you, what, 8th grade?
Yeah.
8th grade. So, one, I know there are a lot of 8th graders out there that have ideas and like to write, but I don't know if there's a lot of 8th graders out there in the world who actually have the discipline to write a book to the point and get it prepared where it's ready to be published. But also, I don't know a lot of 8th graders who would have the courage to say, I want to get this published. Where did you get that resilience and courage?
I actually don't really know. I wanted to publish the book because I thought it was the best that I've came up with, and I thought it would be very interesting.
I'm sure lots of kids will find it very interesting. Is it out there in the world? Are you getting any feedback from people that are saying to you if they like the book or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that feel when someone comes up to you and you know that that person has read your book and they tell you that they like it a whole lot?
It can feel interesting.
Uh-huh.
It feels,
Does it make you feel good?
yeah, it makes me feel good and a bit anxious too sometimes.
That's, if you don't mind, I'd like to explore that a little bit, because I am here and we have all these experts who come on Reading with Your Kids, and they talk about, one of the things they talk about is that lots of kids these days are feeling very anxious. You just mentioned that you feel anxious sometimes when people are telling you that they like your book. Is that anxious feeling something that you experience a lot in your life?
Not really.
The reason I brought it up is so we've had all these experts who say, well, I think kids are anxious because of this or that or the other thing. I'm wondering, I imagine that you have classmates that feel anxious, and I'm wondering if you have any idea of why we might be seeing more and more kids who are feeling anxious these days.
Well, I think it's because some kids tend to think about how others feel about them, and so it makes them worried.
Uh-huh. Does social media make that worry a lot worse for kids?
I believe it does.
Yeah. So you said to us you kind of only feel anxious when, people are telling you about your book, and that makes a lot of sense. What do you think, how do you think parents can help their kids who are always comparing themselves to others and looking at pictures on social media and seeing these pictures and not realizing that the people taking the pictures are using filters and makeup and they don't really look like that person in real life? How can parents help their kids feel more comfortable about themselves?
I think parents just tell their kids that how much they love them and who they really are, because a lot of times they grow thoughts in their heads about what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think parents should tell them who they actually are, and that a lot of the things they think of themselves aren't really true.
I love that. And I think that is one of the wisest things anybody has ever said on Reading with Your Kids. tell me, now that the magical world of Candytopia is out in the world, do you plan on writing a second book?
Yes, the book comes with another book that follows it.
Uh-huh.
In the book, Kate continues her journey.
All right. So you're planning on making this a series?
Yes.
How exciting. Who is helping you create these books? Do you have a team of illustrators and editors and things like that?
No, I write the book myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I send it to a publisher,
Okay.
and they edit for me, and then they publish it for me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, is there a place online where people can find out more about the magical world of Candytopia and maybe a little bit more about you?
I don't think so yet.
Okay. Is the book available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of those places?
Yes, it's available.
Okay. So if we go online, go on Amazon and we say, search The Magical World of Candytopia by Abigail Samson, folks will be able to see the book and read all about it.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, Abigail, I am so excited that I had a chance to meet you. We want to encourage everybody to take a look at The Magical World of Candytopia. It was written by our guest, Abigail Samson. Abigail, thank you so very much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Until then, we want to thank the folks who made the show so wonderful. Of course, we start by thanking our guests, Jackie Cano, Emily Jenkins, and Abigail Samson. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Rayling Tang. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.